So now that I'm out of YouTube jail, let's go back to normal stuff. Just answering questions. Hey WebTech, I have another question for you. Right in your area of expertise. I won't do the joke. Okay. Computer safety. Computer safety is a way of doing things. It has nothing to do with computers, but I have to say something. It'd be really nice to be able to load up secure Linux and have it actually do what its name says. But let's move on. I'm not suggesting it yet. Just move on. I keep seeing many channels being sponsored by various VPN companies. Seems to be a trend this year. Yeah. I think I have watched 4 different companies offering VPNs being advertised by channels, not YouTube, as I pay them to avoid the adverts. I don't pay them and I don't get to see advertisements at all. If you can see advertisements on YouTube, you have no security. And I'm not even doing anything all that useful. An advertisement, by definition, in order for the company that's allowing it to go through their website, whether it be Facebook or YouTube, has to make it to where they can track you, or they wouldn't be able to show the ad because they want proof from YouTube, for instance, that a human saw that ad. And they're going to critique that stuff. Which means, by definition, if you can see an advertisement on YouTube or Facebook or any website do anything like that, you're being not just tracked, but that means you have no security. Just because the browser is helping that. But I'll move on. I regularly watch them so far in 2019, 20 of them. Etc. Sorry, I've been sick all day, so I'm really tired right now. Anyway, my question is really just, what is your thoughts on these VPN companies? Are they really as clean cut as they try? That's the same gnat from 2 weeks ago. As clean cut as they try to imply, or do they record your activities themselves by keeping records on you? This is a lot like the meme of what company would do a better job writing a virus than a antivirus program company, because they could write something they could easily defeat, create a straw manning virus. Passing this information on to third-party governments, third-party companies, governments, departments, or police, is it worthwhile using them? And which would you pick as your preference choice if you had to? You're asking for an opinion at the 2-minute and 47-second mark. Here we go. None. That's the end of the video, and I'm literally none of them. I'm going to bring up some simple concepts here. One of them that you probably already heard of is something called a proxy. You may know exactly what it is, but I'm going to rethread this. You tell your computer or your web browser, everybody says it wrong, you can tell your computer, the entire operating system, or a browser, to dump everything through all web traffic through a internet provider on the internet we call a proxy. It's not really an internet provider. What you do is you remote control, effectively, like a marionette, the other computer to do everything for you and funnel the information back to you. And this allows it to be, if a website sees you cruising their website, like let's say Facebook, they'll assume that you're coming from the proxy location. Now, if they dig deeper, they can figure out, okay, it's a website that's being a proxy. And some websites will ban you for using a proxy because they want to know where you are, mostly because they want to authenticate you. I don't allow that. Or any services I use, I don't let it look up my IP address, the MAC address for the hardware. There's a bunch of details about your computer that can be used behind your back or on purpose to actually really help you to identify you as you. And every freaking one of them can be defeated by you using a proxy or a VPN, which means they're literally worthless and shouldn't be used anymore. I mean, it's kind of obvious if you can do a borrowed ladder, like in the movie Gattaca, and imitate me on the internet by just stealing just a bit of data about how my computer works by plugging a thumb drive in or just guessing correctly the hardware that might be in it, because this is a specific model and make, maybe you could use that to authenticate yourself partially on a website. That's why websites shouldn't do that at all. It's all or nothing. If it isn't really useful, they should stop doing it. But It helps them figure out what language you might be speaking and that sort of thing. So if I run my computer data traffic through a proxy in, let's say, Germany, they'll assume that I'm into sprockets or something. But does it really work? Because when I'm communicating with it, I may or may not be using a secure, encrypted communication. That proxy may or may not retain information about what I use or what I did. And again, that proxy takes the blame for anything I do. If I was doing something illegal or God forbid, literally an attack, a cyber attack, for instance, the proxy system would get blamed, and it would be in their best interest. In fact, it pretty much absolutely would happen that they would squeal on me. They would say, yeah, that communication came through us, we're a proxy, this idiot did it. I'm behind 7 proxies. Well, they can just chase down the ladder. They can see how you traverse the internet. Now let's take another tack with this. This is the assertion made about virtual private networks. A proxy can secure your web browser and you, and hide your IP address, yes, and also every other data bit if you want to, making your internet activities appear to come from a proxy computer some other place. It's just another computer. It could be a bank of them, or it could be a network. The network itself could be told spawn a false computer and use that. It's a dumb man-in-the-middle format and might not encrypt anything, but it's cheap or free or sometimes stolen. You can get away with finding some websites that have been configured as, by accident, a proxy of some sort, and someone can go in and retool them to be a really useful proxy. And the better ones actually cost a little bit of money because they go through the effort of doing all this, and they have to be in countries where they will not retain any information, and they also have to be in countries that will resist being broken into and immediately alert you when they're compromised. But in the countries that you can get away with having a non-traceable proxy or VPN, you'll also end up in a country where they just come in and put a gun to someone's head and make them give up the information. There's no court cases. They just shoot people until they get the information they want. You have to hope that you don't tick off the country it's located in. And in many cases, these proxies and VPNs won't tell you what country they're in. Or they'll be in hundreds of different locations around the world that don't admit they exist there. Just saying. So let's try about the VPN. Virtual private networks use encrypted tunneling to replace all of your internet service provider's functions if they're not blocked by the ISP, using very clever methods to make sure they can't be blocked. The entire communication from your computer to them is encrypted so that snooping from the outside is not going to work. And if it's implemented correctly, it really does look like just random chatter and noise. It does not have the ability to be decoded. The only thing the internet service provider can determine is that you communicated from this IP address with your MAC address to the VPN over here with their IP address and MAC address. And they can go round robin and go all over the place. You can also use something like Tor, the Onion Network, or any other peer-to-peer bear share and whatever Shariza, whatever style file sharing used to be networks to act as a gigantic, fat, encrypted, virtually impenetrable file set transfer system, and just use it for an internet connection, and it'll be just about like this. You can also do other things where you have some specific hard location act as a proxy doing this, and there's no traffic back to you. That's another layer as well. And this makes all applications on your computer do this, is the assertion they make. But you can also do that by just setting up a system-level proxy on your computer by saying, I want my entire computer communication data to go through the internet service provider, anywhere. I'm on a Wi-Fi, so yeah, I use the Wi-Fi at the coffee shop as my proxy. Yeah, it's not that complicated. Most of them already do that. Most of you might not know this, but Starbucks, if they run Google's hookup, which is Google Fiber-based, Google is your proxy. They also filter you, and they also censor you. That's why sometimes I will get a better connection depending on where I'm at when I'm looking up certain things I'm being messed with. But the thing is, VPNs are actually things that have to cost you money because, and this is the assertion, they can secure all of your internet access and give you a faster internet connection because a proxy connection is usually pretty cheaply put together or even free, and cannot do this at high speed because it doesn't use a dedicated set of hardware to do this. And it requires very good hardware to do this if you're going to do one machine doing 50 people versus one machine doing thousands of people, which is what you end up with on a proxy. And they can't be free or cheap. But do they really work any better? If you set up a peer-to-peer hookup network, just a peer-to-peer network, it can become something as hardcore as a VPN. You have to use something like Peer Guardian or something else to make it to where all of the people connecting that you connected to immediately to get the encryption worked out, to negotiate how the information is encrypted and decrypted, the codec. That information has to be secured from the get-go. And you have to hope that somebody hasn't hooked up, a couple of FBI computers in your neighborhood trying to get on the same network and steal keys or steal hashes. Now, keys, hashes, secure connections, negotiating the proxy, blah, 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 hacking the Gibson. What do these all mean? Well, this is when you go into researching it, but I'll just give you a quick example. Let's say you and I use the international standard for encrypting things. The little Annie Oakley secret space decoder ring with a Daffy Duck on it. I've just made that up. But let's say we came up with that one. Drink your Ovaltine. That's the key set. We're going to start with the Drink Your Ovaltine set from the movie. There's a specific movie. Now, if you don't know the movie, if you don't know the cultural reference, if you don't know what it is, and if you didn't get a good look at him manipulating the decoder ring so that you could find that information, you can look up the decoder ring. There's a web version of the decoder ring from the movie A Christmas Story. I've actually used it. It's a really simple cipher. It's called a Caesar cipher, I do believe. It's a simple substitution. You can also do ROT 13 and ROT 5. You can rotate the alphabet and the number system slightly. You can also use a binary ROT, which makes it to where you're using escape characters mixed in as well. You could agree on how you're going to do this in the first place. Or you could just say, hey, for the next 5 seconds we will use this to share key set identifiers. And then back and forth, you have an agreed upon set of them that week that are used to create your public and private key set. That methodology means that for the first few minutes you're only faking being encrypted. After that, you can use a set of keys or codes to make it to where the encryption is really encrypted. But for the first few seconds it isn't. And then, if you don't have to reset the connection, or if it isn't forced to be reset by a third party interfering, like your internet service provider, Google, Starbucks. It's not Starbucks, it's Google messing with you. Or the coffee shop up here, or freaking Quest, or Comcast will do this. They'll interfere with a encrypted connection every chance they get. They'll reset the connection so you have to renegotiate that key and they can try to bust in. No, that's literally what's going on, because they don't want encrypted contact and communication. What's funny is if you used an old style AOL disk, it did the same negotiation process to secure your credit card. You can still use it, you just use it within a window until don't dial, use the internet that's available already, and suddenly you have an internet connection that's encrypted and going through a giant ass proxy named AOL. And now we get to the funny part. America Online wasn't just a proxy, it was a virtual private network. Now I want you to think really slowly. I just told you that AOL, as shitty as it was, as much as they screwed you over trying to get that $25 or whatever it was a month, sometimes without you even having an internet connection, and trying to sneak it in no matter how many times you told them they're not allowed to access your bank account. I don't have a vendetta. That stupid floppy, when it was a floppy disk, had hard encryption encoded in it. They went batshit insane on that. They did a good job on it, at least for a while, just before they switched over to those stupid, wasteful garbage CDs they put out. So, oh my God, you could pave a highway of lies with it. But anyway, yeah, it's been around for a long time. Yes, me and the other geeks in town would use AOL as a proxy, a fat proxy. You call it a VPN. Is it worth the money? I don't use them because I see no point. There's too many places to break into. The only way you could do it is if you have a permanent physical connection, a wired connection, no Wi-Fi. Don't enable anything. And you use an operating system that's secure. Secure Linux comes to mind. Then maybe this would work. I don't see the point. How about this? Don't do anything anybody would find interesting about you, and don't put out any information on your system, and block every ad. Look up how to do so. First steps. Thanks for watching. Bye.